Hey, and welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. Today, we're going to cover the topic of why isn't my local SEO working? This is a big problem for a lot of businesses. And we know that many small businesses have invested time, energy, resources, money into their SEO efforts. And yet, oftentimes, something's amiss. Are you struggling to show up on Google Maps? Are you wondering why your website isn't drawing a lot of local traffic? Or are you perplexed about why those glowing customer reviews are not translating into higher rankings for your business online? Well, we're going to dive into these questions and more today, and hopefully uncover and help you understand what's going on and how you can overcome some of these common local SEO efforts. So welcome to Ken and Paul, our marketing guides for the day. And let's jump right in with a question for Paul. Paul, from your experience, what are some of the most common reasons for SEO not working for a local small business?
Because you don't respond to the marketing agency you hired?
That could be one reason. That is one I didn't anticipate you saying, but that could be a true statement. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, we've talked about this in the past. It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. You have, if your marketing agency asks you questions about your business and your mission statement, things that are important to you, you have to respond. They can't help you if you don't communicate. And and not trying to be sarcastic. It's just, when I saw that question, it's like that it happens all the time. And, you hire a marketing agency and they have a responsibility to you, but you also have a responsibility to be responsive.
Yeah.
And if you're not, they can't help you.
Right. And that makes total sense. And yeah, you're right. That does happen. Now, let's assume that the small business owner has responded. They've enlisted, either they're doing it themselves or they've enlisted the help of an agency or an SEO expert, but they're not seeing the results. Why? What are some of the reasons other than communication? Assuming the communication is good, what might be some common reasons that it's not working?
Well, let's start with your website, because your SEO is all about the website. And this, if I can go off in left field one more time, I sent Ken an article from, I think it was Search Engine Journal, that Google and Google Business Profile, they have this website, business.website.com, whatever it is, where you can put up a website pretty quickly. It pulls from your Google Business Profile and basically generates a website for you. And John Mueller was asked a question. He said that from an SEO standpoint, the Google business websites are worthless. And I thought that was interesting because they put this out there and they encourage you to do it. But then John Mueller says, yeah, from an SEO perspective, it's not going to help you. So why do it?
That's really interesting. And that's surprising.
Yeah. And I mean, I can find it and send it to you. I sent it to Ken. He might still have it. But yeah, it's John Mueller basically said, from an SEO perspective, the Google business websites are worthless.
Well, it makes sense to me. I mean, it's duplicate content from your Google Business Profile. So how is it going to help you? There's no extra value there other than maybe you have the ability to create, publish it on a domain that you own.
Yeah. And that goes back to, we've talked about this in the past. The only thing you own online is your website. You don't own your Google Business Profile. You don't own your Facebook page, your Twitter account, your Pinterest account, whatever it is. You don't own that. You're at the mercy of someone else. So if your website isn't built with, or isn't, with SEO built in, that's a problem. targeting the wrong keywords. We talked about this in the past. So we get these emails all the time. I just mark them as spam. That will get you to page one for whatever keyword, and it's a keyword that no one looks for. Okay, good for you. Ranking for a keyword or a phrase, a keyword or a key phrase that no one is looking for doesn't help you. So you have to do your keyword research. And a lot of times people say they're going to write their own blog post. Bad idea, because you have to have high quality content. They have to be written with SEO in mind. And you don't know how to do that. Just like I don't know how to do your job. Okay. If you're a landscaper, I don't know how to put in a retaining wall. Could I do it myself? Yeah, probably. I could go online and look it up, and I could probably do it myself, but would it be as good as if if a professional landscaper did it? Not a chance, just because that's not my area of expertise. So not having high quality content written with SEO in mind is going to hurt your chances to rank. And not doing your on-page optimization properly. And this goes back to writing the content. If the content isn't written properly, you can't optimize it. You have to have the proper title tags and meta descriptions, and even that, the meta descriptions, Google has a habit of deciding, because Google knows better than everybody. Google's smarter than God. Just ask them, and they'll just change your meta description. Even if it's a good meta description, Google will decide that they're going to change it. But having a good meta description, title tags, not overusing your keywords, but using them and semantically related key phrases. If you don't do that, it's going to hurt your chances to rank. Backlinks, low quality backlinks. This Google's actually getting better about this, where because they recognize that you can't control who links to your website. Yes, you can go in and you can disavow these links, but Google's actually getting better at saying, okay, that's a backlink from a link farm or a spammy website, whatever, and they'll just ignore it. So they're getting better about that. But slow site load time or page load time. If your website isn't optimized for mobile and your load time sucks because you just upload pictures that are, 15 megabytes and you stick that on your website, that's a problem. That's going to kill your load time. And page load speed is part of, Google's web core vitals. It has been for a while now. So your page load speed has to be good. Your web core vitals have to be good. And if you're not looking at that and optimizing for load time, that's going to hurt your rankings. Not being mobile friendly, I mentioned that earlier. If your website isn't mobile friendly, that's going to hurt you, because Google has gone to something called mobile first indexing, and they're going to look at your mobile presence. How does your website load on mobile? How does it look on mobile? Does it function on mobile? And if it doesn't, that's going to hurt your rankings. HTTPS, I can't believe that we still see this. This is not something new. This is 5, 6, 7 years old now. HTTPS is a ranking factor, and you still see websites that are not HTTPS. And that's, secure hypertext transfer protocol. I can't believe we still see websites that are not using HTTPS. And if you're one of those, that's gonna hurt you. Duplicate content. There is no duplicate content penalty. Google will simply ignore it, and they will decide what the canonical URL is, which is the where the original content resides. So if you, and we see this a lot of times with these industry, whether it's, you know, accountants, attorneys, whatever, these industry specific agencies that, and they basically, they just take the same content and push it out to every website that they build. And you're not going to get credit for that content. So they're going to penalize you from the point that they're going to ignore it. They're not going to, like, it's not like a direct penalty, but they're going to ignore it. So that in itself is kind of a penalty, I suppose. Bad user experience. If your website is hard to navigate, if people can't find the information they need, if the content is thin or, you know, not comprehensive, and people bounce off your website because they can't find the content, or the content isn't useful, or it's not in depth, that's going to hurt you. You know, not optimizing your Google business profile, that's going to hurt you. You even though you don't own it, like I said earlier, you have to optimize your Google business profile. If you don't do that, it's going to hurt it's going to hurt you, because your maps listing, which is your local presence, so to speak, is drawn from your Google business profile. So that has to be done properly. You know, inconsistent citations and name, address, phone number, that has to be consistent across your online presence. You know, a lot of businesses over the years, they've moved, phone numbers have changed, and they haven't updated this information, and a marketing agency has tools to help automate that process. But having inconsistent name, address, phone number out there, that's going to hurt you. And I guess the last thing I'd add is that SEO is an ongoing process. It's not a one and done thing. It's not something you can, okay, hey, 5 years ago we did SEO, so we're good. No, you're not. It's an ongoing effort. You know, just like publishing content, we talk about omni strategy, where whether YouTube and Google business profile and your website and Facebook and LinkedIn and whatever, you have to be on all these platforms. And this all builds into your SEO. SEO is no longer just about your website. Even though your website is the only thing you own and it's extremely important, you still have to be on all these platforms. And they all have to be integrated. It all has to be part of an integrated marketing strategy. So did I go?
Yeah, one of the analogies I like to use with business owners when equating the, you know, explaining and helping understanding related to how digital marketing and SEO specifically is like just with your brick and mortar store or presence. You need to constantly invest in that brick and mortar location in order to keep it attractive to your customers, clients, patients. You need to so that it's working properly, that the water, you know, isn't leaking or whatever it is, right? That the washrooms are pleasant to be in, all that kind of stuff, right? Businesses understand that your signage is good, but when it comes to digital, sometimes this is overlooked. One of the things I think that's important to remind people about related to SEO, because SEO traditionally has been this highly mysterious and misunderstood part of marketing for a lot of business owners, because just as you walk through that whole list, Paul, there's a lot of highly technical things that are evolving and changing all the time. And so for a business owner, it's very confusing. But the easiest way to understand SEO is that you're trying to create signals or a consistent conduit with the search engines, and we'll use Google as the main one, right? Because that's where 96% of all searches are done today.
91% worldwide. There's an antitrust suit against them right now.
So 90 plus percent, which means the lion's share of all people are using it. But the point isn't about the percentage of people. It's that you need to understand as a business that you need to send the right signals to Google, create the resonance and relevance of content and information that Google feels comfortable sending traffic to you, because you're the best option for them to send traffic to. That's as simple as I can make it, right? Like, they're trying to send traffic to the very best search engine results that they can for the user searching for a product or service. And so if you can send Google all the right signals, they will send you the traffic. The part two about penalizing, it always makes me laugh when Google says, well, we don't penalize people. And I'm glad you said that it is in essence a penalty. Like, if they stop sending you traffic, if somebody suddenly took the road out in front of your building and you're a dental clinic or a restaurant and people couldn't get to you, that's a penalty to me. So regardless of what terminology is used, you want to make sure that, if duplicate content is going to keep Google from sending more traffic to you, you need to make sure you're sending organic, original content out there so that Google doesn't essentially stop sending you traffic to that content.
Yeah, let me clarify that.
Sure.
It's not going to show up in Search Console as a penalty, but if they stop sending traffic because of duplicate content, it's in effect a penalty.
Absolutely.
And one thing I didn't mention is structured data, schema markup, not properly implementing schema markup. And I said properly because you can implement schema incorrectly and that will hurt you. So,
yeah,
and that's a technical thing. I'm not going to get into it, but structured data schema, that has to be implemented and it has to be done properly. And if it's not done, it can hurt you. And if it's done improperly, it can actually hurt you more than if it's not done.
Yeah. So lots of moving parts. I think that's one thing that listeners can come away with is, wow, there's a lot of moving parts to this SEO thing. And in order to do it well, you need to focus on a lot of those different elements. And you had mentioned maps, and that leads nicely into my question for Ken. Ken, why, somebody, a business might be asking, why is my business not showing up in Google Maps at all? Or why is my business not showing up at the top of Google Maps listings?
Yeah. And first of all, before I answer that, I just want to reiterate why this is so important. 60 to 70% of all local business traffic, clicks and phone calls happen on the Google Map results. And in order for you to have a chance at that, you got to be in the top 3 to show up on the map results. So we're talking about, an incredibly important place. As Paul mentioned, you've got to have your website. You own your website. What a lot of people don't realize is how important your website is in supporting your maps listing, your Google business profile, and propping it up so that it is going to show up on the map. And so for all of the reasons that Paul talked about, you've got to look at SEO if you're wanting to rank on maps. Now, why isn't your business showing up? I mean, it could be that you never claimed your Google business profile. It used to be called Google My Business, but it's now called Google Business Profile. You might have inconsistent information across the web about your business. Studies show, and this comes from Google, that, people may look at your Google Map result and your Google Business Profile, but they trust the information that's on your website more. So they may find you from Google Profile, but they trust they're going to get deeper trust from your business when they look at your website. Hopefully, if you've designed your website properly, that's why you can't ignore your website. And unfortunately, a lot of people look at a website like it's, they think about it like it's a brochure. And it's really, Ian, as you talked about, it's like a house. I mean, you have to architect this thing and you have to maintain it, and you always have, I mean, even if you're not selling your house, you got to kind of think about, if my business is, if it's being evaluated by people on a constant basis, including the search engines, and it's obvious that I'm not doing the upkeep, then you're not going to rank well. I mean, it's just, and so why give the search engines any, or more importantly, consumers any reason to doubt and question your business. So website is hugely important in feeding your Google business profile listing. A lot of businesses don't pick the right set of categories for their Google business profile. The reality is you can have multiple categories, but you have to pick one as your primary. And a lot of people are really reluctant to do that. And I think they pick the category a lot of times without any real deep thought behind it. I mean, for me, I would look and say, what is constituting the majority of my profitable business with my best ideal customers? And maybe that's what I want to have as my primary business category, because if it's profitable and it's already your best customers, that's probably your best opportunity to grow. And then leverage secondary business categories, to flesh out your Google business listing. Your primary is going to be the thing that's going to help you show up the most in the map results. Secondary are important, but primaries, is super important as well. If you have reviews, you need to look at your reviews. You need to respond to your reviews. Studies show that, responding to reviews actually provides a little bit of an uplift, in rankings. And your Google business profile is a hugely important place to get online reviews. You want to look at a couple of things. Are people putting keyword phrases or category type descriptions, from business category types of things like roofing contractor? Are they using that phrase when they write the review? Or are they just saying, contractor X came out, put a new roof on my house, they did a fantastic job. Okay, well, roof is a keyword, but it's not probably the most important keyword. It's like, it would be better if they said, if you're looking for a roofing contractor in the St. Louis metro area, these are your guys. That's SEO rich review content. And so you might need to coach your clients a little bit. Look, you got to take reviews however you can get them. I mean, reviews are super important, but to the extent that you have a strategy, and you have to have a strategy or this won't happen, you've got to get keyword rich review content written. And one of the ways that you can actually handle that is you can write keyword rich responses also to the reviews that are written. So the other really important thing about reviews is this concept called review velocity. How frequently are you getting new reviews coming in? Google doesn't want to see kind of the big bang where you get 10 reviews all at once, and then you don't get any more reviews for 3 or 4 months. What's the phrase? The power of a review probably starts to really drop off after 6 months. If it's older than 6 months, it doesn't carry nearly as much weight from a ranking perspective. Depending on the nature of your business, you may be in the type of business where it's expected that you're just going to get a ton of consistent reviews, because your business is pretty transactional, like a restaurant or, even a hair salon, where there are a lot of, customers each and every day, as opposed to a roofing contractor, which may only be working with 2 or 3 customers, over a 1 or 2 week period, or a couple of day period, or whatever it might be. And so, review velocity is really important. You want to keep getting a constant, steady stream of reviews. And so you got to think about that. Having your business information listed incorrectly across, a lot of different sites, or not even listed at all, is also an issue, because one of the things that Google looks at when it looks at a Google business profile, 3 things: relevance, proximity, and prominence. So relevance is, what is the rest of the internet and what is your Google business profile all saying about your business, your website, all of these other business directory listings, everything that Google can find, all these links that are built, all of that plays in to the idea of relevance. Prominence is driven largely around reviews, review velocity, overall quality, or reviews, composite scores, responding to reviews, keywords in reviews, all of those kinds of things factor in. The last thing is proximity. There's a point of diminishing returns, based on the address that you have to give Google when you create your Google business profile. Even if you don't display your address, Google's going to use that address as kind of the anchor point to say, and then it's going to work out, a 3 to 5 mile radius, maybe a 10-mile radius, depending on what kind of business you have and how many competitors are in that radius zone that you're competing with. But once you get beyond that, it gets to be really hard to rank on the Google business profile and on the Google Maps results. And that's where you have to rely on the power of your website to help pull that up and broaden the reach that you're going to have on the maps results. This is all symbiotic. Your Google business profile, your website, the way other websites across the web talk about your business, link to your business, information they have about your business, social media signals that are all being sent, as you use the word signals, Ian. I think that's a really important concept. These things, we call it the web for a reason. It's interconnected. And so, you can't just assume I'm going to go create a killer Google business profile page and expect that that's going to solve all your problems.
Yeah. Question for you, Ken. So we know a business, they're in one location. They're very strong in that location because that's where their head office is. Their service area trade business. So they also serve another city outside of their main location. So they've set up a Google business profile for that other location, but they're still using their main address because they don't have an address in that other city, but they do have a service technician in that city. But they're not being found very well. What can somebody like that do, or why might it not be working well? Is it related to what you were just talking about, where even if your address isn't being shown, it's still used as the main identifier of where your location is?
Yeah, so this is really, really tricky, and you absolutely have to read Google's terms of service for creating a Google business profile page. Another big challenge is having a virtual office. That just doesn't cut it, in the eyes of Google, which is unfortunate because we live in a world after COVID where a lot of people have shifted, working in a virtual world. So I don't understand why they continue to kind of lag behind in that area. But to the extent that you can legitimately create a Google business profile in the direct market that you're serving, that's the ideal situation. But again, you have to have, if you set it up, first of all, you have to set up your Google business profile correctly. If you set it up where you publish your address, Google's going to expect that people can schedule an appointment and walk in, and somebody will be there to meet with that customer at that address during your business hours. And if not, you're violating Google's policy. And you're at risk of Google removing your Google business profile. So the way you get around that is you set up a service area business where people don't come to you. You go serve them at their place of business or their home or location, wherever they're at. But you still need to have an address to do that. If your address is 250 miles away or 500 miles away or even 50 miles away, you're going to have a harder time ranking in that market.
Yeah. Awesome.
I didn't answer your question because I don't think it's there's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah.
This is where you have to understand the rules. You have to figure out the best and easiest way. And look, there are tons of people that will go do this, to game the system. Yeah. Oftentimes they get caught. Anybody can report a Google business listing if they suspect that it's not set up and operated properly. And so you're a constant risk. If you're doing something to try to game the system and make it look like you have a real physical presence where you really don't, you're playing with fire, I think.
Yeah.
Google is Google is a
I was
poster
just going to
child
ask
for
if you had a comment, Paul.
What's that?
I was just going to ask if you had a comment.
Yeah, that's what I say. Google is a poster child for hypocrisy. They, going back to what Ken said about the virtual world we live in, if you use, and I just thought about that while he was talking, if you use Gmail or Google Workspace Mail, you cannot create tags on your phone. You can only do that from a desktop or a laptop. In your Gmail, you create tags. I'm assuming I do that. I'm assuming other people do that. You can't do that on your phone. You have to create the tag on a desktop. You can assign an email to a tag on your phone, but you cannot actually create a tag in your Gmail from your phone. And yet Google's all about mobile, so they say.
Yeah.
Next question I have for you, Paul, is, and again, this is a pain point that local business owners have, is why am I not ranking for local keywords? Maybe they've done the work, but they're finding that they're just not showing up for local keywords.
Well, if they've done the work, they should be ranking for local keywords. So if they're not ranking, I would say they didn't do the work. I mean, so
well, you got to know what the work is. You've got to know what the work is too.
Exactly. And so it's, this could be a simple answer. Your content isn't optimized for local search on your website, but I'm assuming you want me to expand on that. So, you're not using local keywords in your content or your titles, your headers, your meta descriptions, and you're not using the geo identifiers, such as roofer St. Louis, plumber St. Charles, whatever it is. And you don't have locally focused content. You need to have content on your website, and not all the content on your website has to be about services that you offer. You can have content, and you should have content on your website about the areas you serve and things that are going on in these areas and events, whatever, because that reinforces to Google that you are invested in these areas and that you work in these areas. And schema markup, I talked about that earlier. You have to have properly implemented schema markup, and if you don't have that local schema markup, it again, it's one of those things that it's not a direct penalty, but if you don't have that local schema, you're missing an opportunity to send a signal to Google saying, we work in this area, we're invested in this area, we serve this area. Local backlink profiles, they're important, and it can be a pain because you have to kind of have a referral network, if you will, but you have to work with local businesses that they're not direct competitors to you, but they complement what you do, because relevancy of backlinks is important as well. And so you have to, if you can work with other local businesses to have a local backlink profile, that's definitely going to help you. Ken talked about your Google business profile optimization and picking your category and things like that, and setting your service area, and tying into that, competition from other local businesses. You had asked about this company that was trying to rank in another area, but they don't have an address in that area. Well, that's gonna be a problem. I'm surprised they actually got that business profile approved, actually, because a lot of times Google will flag that and they'll say, yeah, you can't do that. So the fact that they got it approved is actually, keep an eye on that. It might get flagged in the future. But the further proximity is so important, because the competitiveness of the market you're in, the area you're in, how densely populated it is. If you're in a rural area, it might not be that difficult for you to rank for a keyword 25 miles away. But if you're in Los Angeles or New York, good luck. You're going to have trouble ranking 10 miles away because it's so densely populated and so competitive. And especially if you're the kind of business where someone drives to you, like a dentist, for instance, or a chiropractor, they're not going to drive 20 miles. If they're in New York, people aren't going to drive 20 miles to go to a chiropractor because there's probably 15 of them within a 3-block radius.
And it could be a 3-hour drive.
Which could be. It'd be faster to walk there. That's why people walk in New York. But yeah, there's a lot of factors, but a lot of that competitiveness and the density of the population, the area you're in, that can't be underestimated. But if your website doesn't have locally focused content and doesn't have content for these local keywords, and your Google business profile, like Ken said, that's the tricky part. It depends on the competitiveness of the area and where you're at and the industry you're in. But I guess the thing to keep in mind is ranking for local keywords. There's that proximity factor is extremely important. And like I said, if you're in a densely populated area and you want to rank for a local keyword 15 miles away, there's a good chance it's not going to happen. So
yeah,
don't underestimate that proximity factor and the area you're in. Like I said, if you're in a rural area that's not densely populated and you don't have a lot of competition, yeah, you could probably rank for a local keyword 25 miles away. In a densely populated area, that's not going to happen.
I think one of the things that people stop at is they feel like they're doing all the right things. I created this content. I've got this service page. I talk about, that I work in these locations. I may have even created some of these location pages and things like that. But what they don't do is they don't look at competitor analysis and see how hard is it and what do you need to do to leapfrog a competitor who's ranking better than you. And this is where you need to have access to some pretty sophisticated SEO and analytical tools to help you kind of identify those challenges and give you some ideas on how to overcome them in terms of content recommendations or keyword recommendations or a variety of other things. And so, I think a lot of people skip that step, and a lot of people, when they pay for an SEO program, whether they realize it or not, a lot of what they're paying for is activity-based. Even though it's SEO, it's activity-based SEO. I'm going to try to get my SEO based on a certain cadence of content being created every month, certain, set of systems like to drive reviews, maybe Google optimization, X number of Google posts, stuff like that. And a lot of people don't realize that, in order to do SEO right, sometimes you need to go beyond that level of, even though I don't like to think of SEO as activity-based stuff, a lot of it is activity-based stuff. I also want to go back and just talk about Google Business Profile, and how you make sure you optimize that. You want to post to your Google profile at least once a week and take advantage of that. Google wants you to post, and they give you the ability to do a post. You can have multiple types of posts. You can post an offer. You can post a link back to content that you published as a blog post on your website. You can just do it as kind of like a status update, like you would on social. You want to get people, and you want to be adding pictures and videos to your profile, and you want to fill out your profile as completely as possible. If you have products and services, fill those sections out on your Google Business Profile. Those are all important. I forgot to talk about those.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things just related to the Google Business Profile is hopefully you're in there all the time anyways, but just to give people an idea, a year ago, you as a business probably only needed to check on your profile monthly to see like what's the health of my profile. I would say now you should be in there weekly, just like you were talking about posting, Ken, but even just to review the suggested changes that have been made by Google, related to subcategories, related to services. Like I'm amazed at how much Google has ramped up the speed by which they make their recommended changes to your profile sometimes is actually pretty crazy. And users can also suggest recommendations of changes too, related to your hours, related to your contact information, related to the services you offer. And so as a business, you really need to be in there a lot, or hire someone to be in there a lot on your behalf, because it can go off the rails pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
One of the other things I just wanted to add to what you were saying, Paul, was we've actually come across businesses where the influence of the owner, or it could be anyone within the business, but traditionally it seems to be the owner, has actually diluted the SEO optimization because of the way they personally speak about their business. And they've ignored the advice of their SEO experts. So, meaning they have a particular framework that they like to speak about their business, but that framework doesn't actually exist in the real world. Like they've created their own dialect about what they do. And so, sometimes when we've worked with those guys, we have to be pretty strong armed as far as, at least in informing them that, hey, if you go down this path, nobody's going to find you because nobody speaks your dialect, because you're not Apple, you're not, Elon Musk. People aren't watching you, and you're not an authority in the space yet. So you need to be very careful about that. But, those type of circumstances can often lead to really diluted impact within a marketplace, because you're not using common language that the actual searchers of your product or service are using. Seems like it should be super, super clear, but I am amazed that, it's come up, in the 8 years I've had my business, it's probably come up like 4 times with different owners.
At the same time, though, if you may have to do both, because you may have a set of very sophisticated users who know that technical language, and they're looking for that, even though the search volume is dramatically less. But
I'm not talking technical language, Ken. I'm talking they've created their own terminology because they're trying to be an influencer in the space, but nobody else knows this terminology. I agree. If you're in a highly technical industry and you're trying to attract highly technical people, for sure. This is not about that. This is about creating your own unique dialect and language usage that nobody searches for. Because even semantically, Google can't make the connection.
Right. Yeah. And when you say technical, it doesn't have to necessarily be technical. It's just, you have to think about it. People are going to describe a problem. They may not know the answer. They may not know the product or the solution that provides that answer. So you have to have content for that to help you rank. An easy example I always use is retirement planning. Somebody is, I need help, with, developing a retirement plan. In some cases, people are going to know a product that they want help with. I need help rolling over with my 401k, or, I need help planning my 401k. That's a product. And so a lot of times there's a trap, as, people who work in the business all the time, you get so wrapped up in your product and your terminology, and some people are going to know that, but a lot of people don't. So that's why we always talk about SEO is also really critically driven by how you focus on the problems that you solve, and how the language on your website speaks to those problems. But you also need to think about having the language for those people who already know what they're looking for in terms of a product or a service category, if you will. So you have to think about both. And a lot of times people only think about the product driven or the service category driven, solution. Like an HVAC contractor might talk about an annual clean and check. Is a clean and check a term that somebody looking for somebody to come in and service their air conditioner or their furnace? Is that the phrase they're going to use?
Well,
Maybe,
and
maybe not.
I think I would even simplify it further, Ken. Like, I think what you're saying is absolutely true. I would simplify it even more. And this aligns with what I was trying to say too, is that it's not about you. It's about
Right.
the audience, right?
Exactly.
That's the
Yeah.
whole point of why your website exists. It's not a vanity thing. Your website doesn't exist for your personal vanity unless it is, right? Unless you're an actor or something. I don't know. But as a business, as a service or product-based business, your website, your Google business profile, everything exists to align with what the audience is looking for, right?
Yeah.
And if you get that right, if you don't get caught up in your own head, you'll be
Right.
fine. But think
Right.
like your audience, and
Yeah.
you'll be well ahead.
Yeah.
Ken,
Yeah.
you talked a bit about reviews before,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you have a lot more to add to this, but one of the questions I hear is, why are my online reviews not really helping my local SEO? I have more than my competition, maybe. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would just say, I think Google reviews are super important, but you also have to think about, where is your customer spending time online? If they're a Yelper, you got to have a Yelp. You got to have good reviews on Yelp. If they're an Angie user, you got to have content, and review related information on Angie. Or, if you're in the medical practices or you're an attorney, there are niche review sites that you have to think about. So you need to have a review strategy and work on that. Mike Blumenthal, I think, who's somebody I think we all think is incredibly credible in this space. That's a horrible way to phrase that, incredibly credible. But anyway, I think I heard him say one time, you need to have one more review on that platform than your top competitor. Is really kind of the way you need to look at it. And so you need to have an understanding of what review platforms out there do make sense. Google is starting to pull review content from a ranking perspective from other sites to, as a way to uplift your Google business profile ranking. But again, a lot of people, they think, oh, well, I've got 150 reviews, I don't need to do any more. Well, if they're 3 years old, they're not nearly as helpful as you think they are. If you're not, like I mentioned, if you're not getting important keyword phrases, concepts, even if you know what the Google category is, if you're not getting people to put that content in when they write a review, if all they do is say, yeah, we hired these guys and they were great, give you a 5-star review, okay, that certainly helps, but it's not nearly as helpful as it could be. So you need to look at what your competitors are doing. You need to understand, how many reviews they have. I think most people also forget the importance of marketing their reviews. So once you get a good review, you need to shout it from the rooftop. Put it on your social media, put it on your website. Make sure you respond to it. People look at reviews, they read reviews to make buying decisions, and sometimes they decide who they don't want to buy from based on reading a review. And sometimes they make a decision on who they want to buy from by reading a response that you wrote to somebody who gave you a less than stellar review, because you said, you know what, it's on us. We need to fix it. Here's what we did. And somebody's like, wow, somebody did, they had something that maybe it happened out of their control, but they took ownership of it and they made the customer situation right. That's the kind of place I want to go stay if it's a hotel, or that's the place I want to go eat if it's a restaurant. So I mean, you've got to factor all these things in. Video content is huge. I think a lot of people are missing out on getting video reviews and testimonials because those are great marketing assets. There are ways that you can use schema markup for review and testimonial related content on your website, which is helpful as well. And then, most people, I think the biggest cardinal sin that most people make is they're afraid to ask people to write a review because they don't know if they're going to write a 5-star review, which kind of is a symptom of maybe there's a deeper problem there. But the reality is people won't write a review unless you ask them to, the majority of people. Now, certain platforms, it's
They
different.
will if you piss them off.
Well, humans are wired to take action when negative stuff happens.
Yeah.
So we're much more motivated to go write a review when we've had a bad experience. And so if you just let reviews happen, they're going to skew to the negative. There are review platforms. Google's not one of them, but Yelp absolutely is, where the culture of Yelp users is a lot of Yelp users like to go write reviews. It's just kind of the culture of why people use Yelp and how it got started as a platform. Angie is the same way. But Google reviews are really important. So you've got to make it easy for people to know how to go write a review. And you got to encourage them to do it. And you've got to work. Like Yelp has very clear terms of service where you're not supposed to directly ask for reviews. But Yelpers get it. What you want to do is you want to make it easy for people to find your Yelp profile. And when they find your Yelp profile,
just to be super clear with people,
yeah,
because we're talking about local SEO,
right?
Which one is going to give you way more power? Google reviews or Yelp reviews or Angie or Nextdoor or Rate MD reviews? Even though Google references these, if you were to prioritize where a local business should try to get reviews, which platform would you send them to, Ken?
I would send them to Google first, but I would also say, then you have to look at what's important for your customers. If you understand who your ideal customers are and that they actively are using Angie and you've had great success building your business around Angie or Yelp, then that's a secondary channel that I think you absolutely need to focus on. The other thing that's really important too is when you look at organic search results today, most local businesses aren't going to beat a top 10 list from Yelp or Angie or Home, House or a lot of these different,
3 best rated, whatever it is.
And so what you want to, so you also have to think about, if they're not going to pick you from the Google map result, but they are going to pick you because you're in the Yelp top 10 or the Angie top 10 or whatever, you have to optimize organically, how are you going to show up on that top 10 list? And, how do you do that? And so I think it's, in certain industries, like restaurants or hotel chains, for example, might rely on Yelp or they might rely on TripAdvisor a lot more than a lot of us, in other industries, because of the nature of how people are doing their searches. They're checking out and actively reading reviews on those sites to make buying decisions. And yeah, Google could be a big factor of that. But in terms of local ranking, yeah, you got to say it's Google right now. And like I said, Google Business Profile, if you show up in the top 3 there, that's where 60 to 70% of all clicks are happening right now. So it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Google's got to be number 1.
Okay. Awesome. And Paul, this is a common question people have about their SEO is why is my local SEO strategy not yielding quick results? I'm dropping down a few just so you know where I've gone.
Okay, are you oh, okay. All right. Yeah. You skipped ahead a little bit there, didn't you?
I have, because our time's running out, and I think this is a really critical question that people want to know. Like, why are my SEO efforts not yielding quick results?
Because The short answer is SEO is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay. It takes time. It's not something, it's not like running ads that can produce quick results. And, look, even running ads, most people don't click on ads. They know it's an ad. They know you're paying to have that show up. And a lot of that's why a 6% click-through rate on Google Ads is really good because most people don't click on ads. But I guess part of it is managing expectations. If someone says that they can get you ranking on page 1 of Google and they guarantee it, first of all, they're violating Google's policies. And second of all, you should run, because no one can guarantee that, because everything Google does is out of your control. And like I said, SEO takes time, and there's too many factors. There's a lot of things you can do on your website and your Google business profile, like we talked about, but ultimately there's things that are out of your control, like your competition. What are your competitors doing? If you're new to if your business is new and you have entrenched competitors, you've got an uphill battle ahead of you. That's going to take time and effort and money, and not consistently investing in SEO goes back to what I said earlier. It's not a one and done thing. It's an ongoing effort, and not recognizing that it's an omni-channel strategy. It's not just about your website, even though these other platforms are out of your control. You, in the sense that you don't own them, people are on these platforms, and you have to be on these platforms where your customers or ideal customers are. So you have to recognize that it's a long-term strategy. You have to invest in it. It's not a one and done thing. And you have to monitor what your competitors are doing. If your competitors are investing a lot of money in their online digital presence, not just SEO, that's going to affect what you have to do. If your competitors are investing $10,000 a month in an online strategy and you have a $2,000 a month budget, you have a problem. There's just no nice way to say it. They are outspending you and outflanking you and out everything you, because they're outspending you 5 to 1.
Yeah. And we've certainly seen we've talked about this before on this podcast. We've certainly seen a huge movement to local businesses investing in good digital marketing and SEO since COVID hit, right?
Well, they have no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it just makes it that much more competitive.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. And, that's the thing. There's a lot of businesses that, like you said, pre-COVID, whether it was referrals or networking events, BNI, whatever it was, and that worked for them. And then COVID hit and all that went away, and they had practically no online presence, and their competitors did. And now it was like, oh, well, I need results now. Well, you should have thought about that 5 years ago.
Yep. Plant the seed, folks.
Yep.
Ken, I really want to get this question answered for our listeners, because it's very common related to SEO. I'm sure you've seen it out there, but people get their website redesigned, updated, whatever, and then they ask, they might see a drop in their traffic or their SEO results. So why is my local SEO affected after a website redesign?
Yeah, I mean, this just it's so frustrating, because most web developers honestly don't have a clue what it takes to build a website that ranks.
But they have the bullet point that says SEO on their website.
Yeah, but when they rebuild your website, they break your SEO because they don't do proper 301 redirects to map your old URL structure to your new URL structure. So, and it can generate a lot of 404 errors, and Google no longer knows how to find the content that it had indexed that maybe was ranking. A lot of people, they make the decision to hire a website designer because they think that the website designer is going to build them a beautiful website. And look, you don't want to have an ugly website by any stretch of the imagination, but a beautiful website is not enough to help you rank. And too many people get caught up in the vanity of having a beautiful website at the expense of just destroying their SEO. How does that happen? If beautiful websites usually mean a lot of images and a lot of video, those are heavy. They're large files. They slow down and destroy your page load speeds. We've had situations where people had a dozen videos loading on the website all at once on a redesign. First of all, it makes a really confusing as hell website, because there's a video that pops up for everything that you could possibly imagine. And it's like it's like a barrage, and you're trying to, what do these people really do? Am I really the right customer for them? Just confusing, and confusion hurts a lot. And so,
if you confuse, you lose, right?
absolutely, Donald Miller, absolutely. Thank
And
you.
Ken, just to reiterate that point a little bit, a business that understands SEO is a core competency when they're building a new website. If a lot of videos are needed, there's technical strategies that can be employed so that those are lazy loaded. They're not loaded until you click on them. Like, there's
Right.
all sorts of technical stuff that can be used to overcome those issues.
Right.
But if they're not schooled and understand those ways of doing that from an SEO relevant perspective, they'll just get missed, right? Because they'll just understand, oh, as the web designer, we need to put these 8 videos, 12 videos on this page,
Right.
and it's just going to kill you.
It creates a horrible user experience.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of times the business owner and the web designer think, hey, this is so cool because we got all your information on this one single page. And it's just, it's not easy to navigate and understand. And when you try to pack too much in, you're actually diluting the effectiveness of what you're trying to accomplish. They don't do the on-page SEO properly. They miss things. They leave out the low-hanging fruit. Again, I'm a huge believer. You don't want to give the search engines any reason to question how good your website is just because you didn't do simple blocking and tackling stuff that we typically refer to as the on-page SEO. You didn't give any thought to your meta titles, or you use the same meta title on every page. You don't have any internal linking from one page to the next using anchor texts. You have orphan pages that are on the website that there's no way to navigationally get to those pages. But yet you're trying to get that page to help you rank for search. Sometimes you want to have a page that doesn't have a navigational link to it, but you want to no index that page because you're driving traffic to there for conversion purposes, not for SEO purposes. So,
and then Google immediately sends you an email saying, hey, your page is no indexed. Yes, I know, Google. That's deliberate. Thank you.
But at least they're doing that, right? So that's a good thing. But
if they send it to the client, then the client's like, well, hey, what does this mean? It's like,
yeah, if they read it, not really thinking about the importance of schema. A lot of web developers, again, they're I hate to say this, but a lot of times a website designer that you hire, they're a glorified graphic designer that specializes in building a graphically designed mentality of a website, not a technically SEO focused website. Now you can have both, There are plenty of companies that do both and have the competency to do both. But I think because of vanity, a lot of people are sucked in by the beauty of a website that they see. I lose business all the time. When I lose business, it's because somebody gets seduced by a company that shows them gorgeous websites. And, and when I look at them and I try to explain this, and it's so frustrating, but you know what? I'm happy to lose that business all day long because I know what we do is the right way to do it. We're going to put the premium on driving results, which is, getting leads and sales through people being able to find your website, then people just in absolute awe of how beautiful your freaking website is. I mean, that it just didn't happen. They got to find it first.
Exactly. Well, and aesthetics are very personal too. So what turns your crank about the look and feel of a website might not actually positively affect your audience at all. So
right. And that's not to say, I mean, you've got to focus on user experience. That's an important element of SEO, but don't get seduced by the aesthetic beauty of something. And again, the biggest cardinal sin that we see over and over and over and over and over again is just people don't size the image files properly. They size them like they're creating a brochure that they're going to have printed 300 DPI, and you don't need to have a 300 DPI. You better not have a 300 DPI image on your website.
Yeah. If I can share one anecdote, this is more of a recent thing I've seen in the dental industry, is that you talked about people making choices on aesthetics or choosing because the beauty of a website, choosing the designer because of the beauty of their portfolio. And aesthetics do play a part for sure. The one I've seen recently, not a huge trend, but a little bit of a trend, and I have one anecdote related to it, is software developers. So in the dental industry, you have practice management software, and they've gotten into the web development business and saying, not only will you have this amazing practice management software, we will rebuild your website with, and they have all the right bullet points, right, related to attracting, engaging, converting. And we about 6 months ago, we had a client leave us, and we had spent a couple of years. We built their website, rebuilt their website, had been building content. They were rocking it. Like, they were, for a local dentist to get over 1,000+ visitors a month to their website, like, it was rocking. And then they got this very alluring deal from their practice management software, and they were lured away to do that. Their website actually went down for a month because they couldn't build it fast enough. And then now, like, just because I had them in my monitoring software, I happened to see where, how much traffic they were getting. And it was like in the tens, like 10 visitors a week. And to me, it's heartbreaking because I know what that means to the business. And so, man, business owners out there, be very thoughtful and interview your potential web developers. Make sure they have an understanding of marketing as a whole, but also SEO specifically, or you're going to lose momentum. And that's the last thing you want to do as a business. That's not why you're trying to rebuild your website.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who can use a lot of different tools to construct a website.
Yeah.
That's not enough for SEO. Even if they say, first, an easy way to disqualify somebody is, to ask them, if they don't know what a 301 redirect is, you need to run. I mean, that's fundamental for a website rebuild. We
should create a cheat sheet, a 301 redirect schema, like just words to throw out there and see what people's reactions are.
Right. Another thing that I see too is, people rely on their IT team, and like you said, because they're already providing email and or security services and networking support. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, they can build me a website. Okay, great. Well, yeah, they can build you a website. The question is it the right website to get the results that you need and expect to grow your business?
Right. If it doesn't attract, engage, and convert the right people, then
Yep.
there's no point in having a website, right?
Right.
I think this is a good place unless either of you have any final thoughts. I think we've covered kind of the main pain points that a lot of people feel related to SEO today. Anything else, guys?
Your IT person is not a UX designer.
Yeah. And
or a marketer.
Yeah, and I think hopefully we've given people, a good guide to figure out what really is required to build a modern professional marketing website. And and most businesses need some level of SEO and maybe a lot of SEO for their website. It's a small group of businesses that literally just need a professional looking website because 100% of their business is referral driven, and somebody literally just needs to go look up their business online and say, yeah, they're a credible business. I got a referral from a buddy. Okay, I'm going to pick up the phone and call them. If you're in that situation and that's working for you, more power to you.
And you don't want to grow.
But or you don't have the capacity to grow anymore.
Sure.
And you don't want to grow anymore because you don't want to hire people. I mean, there are plenty of situations out there like that. I think can make sense, but do it by choice and by design, not out of hubris and and a lack of understanding. And I get this is a hard thing. I mean, you're bombarded. If you're like me, I bet I get 50 emails a day on how people can help me rank my website better. And I'm in this business. So I can just imagine what it's like for the average, business owner. And it's confusing as hell. So that's where you need to find somebody who deeply understands marketing strategy and has the technical wherewithal to be able to deliver the goods or help you find the right solution to deliver the goods to solve the SEO challenges that you're going to face.
Yeah, I know we're going a little long here, but Ken was talking about 301 redirects. Well, you better have a really good reason to change your link structure. If if you're rebuilding a website, because that's where your 404 errors happen and the need for 301 redirect. Why are you changing your URL structure? Okay, that's the first thing. And the other thing, I mean, this could almost be its own topic, but when they rebuild a website, what do they not know what was done on the back end? They go to rebuild your website with schema properly implemented, and they go to rebuild a website and now that's gone. Do they even know how to implement that? I mean, these are the kind of questions that people, they don't know what to ask, but need to be asked. Why is the link structure, why is the URL structure changing? What's going to go away from a technical SEO perspective? And that can all those things can cause your rankings to tank.
And that's often the reason why there's a difference usually between a $2,000 website and a $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 website or more, right? Is because of the level of rigor that has to be done in order to not hurt your rankings, but ultimately help your rankings. Well, guys, I think this is a really good place to wrap up. Thank you, Ken and Paul, for sharing your thoughts and your expertise on this important topic, and answering the questions that people are asking about SEO and how they can get more out of it. Thank you to you, our audience, for joining us today. We really value your input. So please reach out to us with topics that are burning in your mind, keeping you awake at night. Reach out to us. We'd love to chat about them. I'm sure we've encountered your problem if you have a marketing problem. So please reach out to us. And please share the link to this podcast where you found us with other business owners who can get a lot out of it. And until next week, folks, keep calm and market on.